Have you ever been so emotional at work that you just later beat yourself up because you just wish you had managed it better? Have you ever had problems letting something go and you find yourself thinking about it non-freaking stop and it's just eating you up inside? Have you ever felt paralyzed by indecision? You wake up in the morning feeling certain about something, but by the evening you just totally second guess yourself, so you just end up not making any decision at all. Well, the success of today's Women of Impact was predicated on her looking inwards, addressing these very issues, and going on to discover firsthand what it actually takes to overcome them. Although born into race car royalty as daughter of 7-time NASCAR champion Dale Earnhardt, today's guest didn't automatically cross the finish line. Despite the name, she never felt like she was winning at anything until she was forced to deal with the thoughts and feelings that were driving her decision, pun intended, and taking her in the wrong direction. So she decided to put her gear in reverse, bypass the scenic route, and drive down the rocky road of self-improvement. And it would take more than potholes and roadblocks to hold her back. With a heavy foot, she accelerated to become one of the most prominent businesswomen in NASCAR history. Former race car driver and co-owner of the juggernaut Junior Motorsports, she was the recipient of the top 25 Women in Business Achievement Awards by Charlotte Business Journal, was listed in 2009 as the third most powerful women in NASCAR by ESPN.com, and named in 2015 as one of Sports Business Journal's Game Changers, Women in Sports Business, for her impact on the motorsports industry. And now, in her new book, Drive, 9 Lessons to Win in Business and in Life, she shares the lessons she learned about being a successful business leader and what she discovered, often the hard way, about succeeding in life. But these lessons, guys, aren't a blueprint for success. They are the values and principles that have personally shaped her, not only as a high-profile executive, but as a daughter, sister, wife, and mother. And man, if ever there was a time, guys, where we needed a guide, tips, tactics, and advice, it's now. How do we work from home, navigate our business, figure out how to be present for our families, all while protecting our own health and taking care of ourselves so we can actually show up for others? So buckle up, because we're about to start the ignition with today's Women of Impact, the one and only Kelly Earnhardt Miller. I'm Lisa Bilyeu, and I went from housewife to co-founder of the billion-dollar company Quest Nutrition, and now president of Impact Theory. Our mission with this show is to empower you and all women to recognize that you really can become the hero of your own life. Welcome to Women of Impact.
Hi, Lisa.
Kelly, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Oh God, so excited. So there's a couple of things in that intro that I really want to hit home from like the get-go. You are running a juggernaut of a business and we are all stuck at home. Now your 9 principles and lessons that you've learned, I'd love to take some of those and really see how you're using those that you've already written and implementing them right now as everybody is, in quarantine. So the first one that really freaking hit me was the managing your emotions. So talk to me about how right now you're managing your emotions, and then also how you're able to manage your team's emotions as we're all navigating this new path that no one's ever experienced before.
Yeah. The managing the emotions it's always a difficult one, right? And especially in times of fear and unknown. And so several weeks ago, in the beginning of this COVID environment, there were so many unknowns. And that first week that we were out of work, really, I was having to use my own book and remind myself of, what to do and how to approach this. And so much of that is really leaning on the facts and, just understanding, trying to push away the feelings and go, okay, what do we know? What can we go with as the truth? And then the fear goes away. It's replaced with experience and personal experience that's happened and things that you're learning throughout this environment. But so that's a really difficult thing to do. For me, managing emotions is a lot about self-talk and self-preservation of those feelings and kind of putting those things aside and really trying to focus on those facts. To help my my employees, which we have 125 employees here at Junior Motorsports, is communicating. Being available, communicating to them. We're communicating at least on a weekly basis to all 125. If then we have small groups that we're communicating through text and Zoom meetings and keeping up with our weekly meetings. And so, staying in touch with everyone. With our HR manager, I'm so proud of her for taking the initiative to start a phone tree and just call people and check in with them, because we say in our communication, if you need help, reach out to us. But oftentimes people don't want to ask. And so, that's how we've been working on it. It's just a week by week, take it day by day. That's another thing. Don't get ahead. Don't worry with what you can't control. Look at the situation and what can we do about it now? Okay. So for example, my friend runs a small boutique business. She has 0 customers. She's not allowed to be open. What can she do? So let's don't hem and haw over, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe my business is closed down. What am I going to do? Let's focus on what we can do. What we can do is use social media to the best of our ability. Get in touch with our followers, offer pickup, offer delivery, offer shipping, offer free shipping. She has really sort of reinvented her business at the moment for the sake of what's happening. And we're getting ready to experience the same thing in NASCAR. We're probably going to go racing without race fans. That's terrifying. It's weird. I mean, we show up at an empty racetrack, no fans surrounding. We're in a stadium type event, no fans. Feels very strange. But again, we've had to sit back and say, how can we make that work? What can we do to engage our fans with us? iRacing is really taking off right now in our sport because we're not racing. So this virtual element of racing, we're supporting that through our same efforts that we would support real live racing through marketing and social media and our sponsors. And so you just really have to say, take a look at your situation and say, what can we do to get through this? And let's focus on how we can move forward, because most people, there's going to be some people that maybe do not see, their way out of this, but for the most part, and maybe they don't see their way out of this in the same way. And that's okay too. They may come out of this in a completely new something, which is great. I mean, may show them something in their life that they never even dreamed or imagined. So, I think just focusing on that in today is the best.
Yeah, for sure. And God, as you were talking, I was just kind of like thinking about how much knowledge you have about your business. You've been in the racing environment your entire life, and this is the first time, and it's such new territory. And so how are you handling that new territory with such optimism, instead of some people, like you were saying, like people handle it in different ways, but by looking at iRacing and considering that, whereas some people automatically would be like, oh well, I'm screwed. How are you forcing yourself to think outside the box, even when you've had so much history and knowledge from how racing used to be?
Well, I had to go through a process of finding myself and finding that inner peace about what you're exactly talking about, because it's not easy to do. But when you have that experience of letting go and not worrying with what you can't control, what you can't, settle or move, and, there's so much angst and frustration and things like that come out of worrying about the things that you can't do anything about. And so for me, it's now a natural way to look at it because of the peace it brings. How can I look at this in a grateful way? How can I look at this in a positive way? What can I do to help? If it's not positive, how can I try to turn it around to be positive? And so that's just really how I choose to look at it. And it's not easy. It's hard. But I just find when you finally have that experience of the peace that it gives you internally, it's way worth it. And you won't ever want to control or worry about something. I mean, I do worry about things, believe me, and I try to control a lot of things, but you know what I mean.
And I really love that you said that, because some people, and I used to definitely be guilty of this, is thinking that, oh, okay, if I do this and I do this, then I'm done. But it is a constant evolution. Like you even said, you've done it in the past, but you're still worrying now. So in those moments where it's like you have the ups and the downs, what are the things that you say to yourself in those moments to pull yourself back out? Do you just remind yourself of the past and say, hey, remember last time when you pulled yourself out? Like, do that again? Like, what is that? What are the mechanisms? Do you go by yourself? Do you take a cold shower? Like, what can people do in those moments?
You know, one of the biggest things I do is own it. I just own it because we have it. And my husband, he'll usually recognize, I know it's happening. My husband will call it out and recognize it. And I just say, you know what? I'm having a bad day today. I can't shake this. I want to do something about it. I can't do something about it. Usually that makes me feel better. Owning it just makes it feel better. And so I own the fact that I can't fix it, help it. It's okay. You know, be kind to yourself. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel down. It's okay to, I mean, I've had my moments the past 3 weeks being at home, of, you know, feeling like an inadequate mom or yelling at my kids over something because I'm frustrated in a moment over here, and the kid comes in and is like, help me do this. And I'm like, I can't help you do this right now. No. But you know, so owning it and being kind to yourself that it happens. We're not perfect. We're not these perfect creatures. I also like to just try to find the grateful aspect of it. And that's been something like during this quarantine, the family time, the dinners that we're having together. And so, you know, finding whatever, writing it down, you know, some people like to keep journals or do things like that.
So what do you do in those moments where your kids come in, you're frustrated? Like I said, I can't imagine the weight of things on your shoulders right now for your business. So, you know, everybody would understand. Of course you're going to be stressed. Of course you're going to be, you know, your emotions are going to be high. But I love that you don't just accept it. So what do you do in those moments where you've realized, oh crap, I've spilled over onto the other side? How do you handle it then? Because there's two elements to this, right? There's one, the tips and tactics you just gave on how not to get there. I thought they were amazing. Now, we all slip up. So if we slip up, what is your advice on how to deal with that other side so that you don't wallow and stay there?
Yeah. So two things on that. One is we try to start our day setting expectations. So we've got the two kids in the house. I've got a 14 and an 8-year-old in the house. They realize that we're having to work. Both my husband and I are working. And so setting the expectation up for the day. During this time, mom and dad are going to be working. During this time, we're going to, you know, if you want to pick an activity that we want to do outside, or right now we're having to deal with as parents right now, teaching our kids at home. And so really laying out the day of what it's going to look like. But when I get caught in those moments, it takes me a few minutes just because of my personality. Us Earnhardts are feisty and we're stubborn, and you know, we've got some great attributes there. You know, and it takes me a moment, but I go back and I, you know, talk about whatever, you know, I'm sorry I yelled at you, or I lashed out on you because I was really frustrated over here. And then try to make a time or a moment or set some expectation for them that will do whatever it is they want, and just trying to set up those expectations and time, because that's how my family operates. They like to know, you know, they want to know when it's going to happening and so on and so forth. So I think that's versus the kind of the unknown. Nobody likes that, right?
Right. You've got a chapter in your book, actually, which I really think of all times to be so perfect. It's like right now, customized communication. So obviously right now, when you're not in person, there's a certain amount of communication that you're not having by just walking past someone in the hallway, or there's certain communication with your family that has altered because you're now in each other's pockets day in and day out. So how are you customizing your communication with your team right now and also with your family?
You know, one of the things I talk about in the chapter is do the right thing always. I mean, you can't go wrong there, right? The biggest thing for me and my employees is really thinking about their families and the impact that all of this is having on them. And, you know, wanting to make decisions that are best by them. And I've taken, you know, obviously I have to look at the financial stability and health of the company, but we're not going to know what some of that looks like until much later. If we get all the races in and contracts stand tall and so on and so forth. So balancing that has been really difficult, and kind of working on that. But, The communication right now just is as transparent and honest as we can be. One thing that I love that I do here, and I know a lot of businesses really, you can't please everyone and everyone's not always going to understand, but I try to give them as much information as I can and be transparent as I can about the who, what, and why of a decision.
So what can people do right now when they're trying to figure out and navigate this situation with work and family and everything like that? What tips can people use in order to figure out how to make that decision? So I love your notion of do the right thing. That's great. But how do you actually know what the right thing is? Like, how do you...
Well, for me, doing the right thing for me is not a right or wrong. It's about ethically and morally how I want to be treated. Because for my employees, like I said, I want the outcome for them to be that they are, during all of this crisis, they are the least impacted in their financial well-being and their emotional and health, right? So how do I get there? What do I do to get there? And in that role for me has been, okay, so maybe I don't want to cut their salaries. Can I afford not to cut their salaries? What can I do? The stimulus stuff that's come out through the government, how can I participate in that? Looking at every option of how I want to get to that final goal, which is the least impact for my employees. So I think that for me, that's kind of doing the right thing. We don't ever know if it's right or wrong. We make the decision to the best of our ability, trying to get to what the end result might be. But it's a moral and ethical thing, and a lead from the thing for me.
I love that. And does that lead into your chapter of aim for the win-win?
Aim for the win-win. So this takes it back to Dale Earnhardt, my dad. So aiming for the win-win in our business is all about sponsorship, right? So we tend to operate on about an 80-20 sponsorship needs versus our winnings in racing. And so we need good, healthy, strong partners, and we need to deliver for those partners. And that's pretty much from a win-win standpoint to me, is that in the relationships, how does this benefit you? How does this benefit me? And is it a win-win for both of us? And those wins produce impactful situations, relationships, outcomes. They produce long-lasting relationships. And so that's what's always been important. And my dad really instilled that into us early between sponsors and fans. I mean, fans are what makes this business go round. And so keeping those at the forefront is what we're doing a win for them, and obviously, we want to have fun and we want to enjoy what we're doing and all those kinds of things. But, how are we winning for both parties and not just pulling at one side or the other?
So I love that, because that's how I absolutely deal in my business. Okay, look, a partnership means this has to be good for you too. So going even back to the communication part is you have to be good at communicating to figure out what that thing is that they need so that you can interpret it and then work together so that there is that win-win.
That brings me to, that brings me to think about laying all 52 cards on the deck, which I talk about in the book and I talk about in the Aim for the Win-Win, because I think what we miss often in business is we hold things back, right? So we don't want to tell them everything because, we don't want to give them an advantage, or we don't want them to see something, but that's how you get there. You're transparent, honest, you lay everything on the table. If they can do the same, then how powerful is that, But even if they don't, you do, it allows them to see the breadth and see what we have to offer for them, and normally if I'm in a conversation and we're laying it all on the table, it'll get them to do the same. They're like, wow, they're not holding anything back. They're not leaving any stone unturned. They're not leaving anything off the table for us. And so I think that's really important too, to lay it all out there, so that you can create those partnerships that are so strong.
And one chapter in your book actually is live a balanced life. How on earth are you living a balanced life right now?
Well, it's certainly difficult in the quarantine times, with having to work and do kids from home. And I'm finding myself, like during the day, now that I'm home, I get sidetracked really easy with chores and laundry and this and that and so on and so forth. So when I'm working, obviously that stuff happens on the weekend. There's kind of a plan for when you're going to do laundry or whatever. I haven't navigated that so far during quarantine. But for me, leading a balanced life in work and business, very hard for me originally. Very career focused, young, no kids, balls to the wall kind of thing. But where I really struggled was obviously in my role, I'm asked to do a lot of different things. I mean, the business things I have to do from appearances and different things like that are one thing, but then they want you to be on this board because of your, maybe it's your name that they're looking to lend your name to help with this or help with that or do this or being asked to do that. And so I really had to start saying no. That was the biggest thing. And that is very difficult for me because I want to say yes. I want to help. I want to help. And, I just want people to be happy and whatever I can give to that is rewarding for me. But I realized it was at the expense of other people, mainly my family. And so, having to do meetings out of town or having to do meetings in the evening or whatnot, I try to see if the boards I'm on, I'm doing daytime stuff, that I can work alongside with work and things like that. But that's really been the biggest thing for me to kind of balance that out is utilizing people around you, ask for help. I think that's another thing that we don't do for families and friends. We're scared we're bothering somebody. We're scared we're burdening someone to ask them for a favor. But that's what friends are for. That's what family is for. We're here on earth to help and support each other. And so, asking for that help, I think is really important and not being afraid to do that. But the first thing is just saying no, finding that balance to give what you can give without giving up yourself and sacrificing your family.
Yeah, I love that you wrap stories in with those tips and tactics. Like when something is so emotional and you really feel it inside, I think it's then it allows you to really force yourself into making those changes and really taking those tips to heart. So I love all the stories that you give. Well, how are you actually though managing right now then with the kids, with the laundry and your business? I mean, it's such a reality, I think, for every single person. What are you doing so that you don't get distracted over things like laundry, dirty plates, things like that?
Well, right now what I'm doing is I'm looking at a laundry basket that's overflowing, and we're fixing to have to move from the laundry basket to the bathtub if we don't take matters.
Does that cause any anxiety though, or any stress by just seeing it there?
No, I'm like, we'll get there. We'll get to it.
I love that. Is that natural for you to feel like that?
If I have anxiety over it, where is it going? All it's doing is manifesting, frustration and issue and angst and distraction and so on and so forth. So why worry about it? The thing to help me get it into perspective is to maybe schedule time to do it, which is what I need to do, and carve out time, just like you carve out time for anything else. That's one of my little pet peeves is people saying, you'll be texting with a friend. Oh, I haven't seen you in a while. You want to get together for dinner? And it's like, yeah, let's get together. Let's make a plan. Let's make a plan. Let's put it on the calendar because otherwise we throw it back and forth. Hey, haven't heard from you in a while. Let's go to dinner. Haven't heard from you in a while. Let's go to dinner. That happens for like 6 months and you never go to dinner, So like make an action, So that's probably what I need to do at home is make an action for the laundry. Schedule some time, even though it's laundry.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this on Friday at 2:00, just like the rest of my life.
Yeah, I love that. I actually do that with dates with my husband. It's like
we do that.
You have to schedule it, especially when you're so busy. Otherwise it will never happen.
I just said to my husband, when quarantine is over, the first thing we're doing is we're taking a trip together. We need a couple little day rendezvous. Well, I found, you mentioned something earlier too that I loved about when something is so emotional, how it really takes a hold of you to want to do something and really act on it. And for me, that was when I met my husband 10 years ago, and he asked me to marry him. I didn't want another failed marriage. That would be my third marriage. My first marriage was in the midst of my dad dying, which was a crazy time. So I count that, but sort of don't count that. And my second marriage to my two girls, my older girls, dad. And so I was so emotional on that. Like, I don't want to fail again. I don't want a failed marriage. You know, where is my part in this? Where is my place in this? What's happening? Why have these marriages not worked out? Why have these relationships not worked out? And so that was the start of the heavy lifting for me to go through therapy and to really find myself and do all this inner soul searching and kind of the baggage of childhood and that stuff playing out in my life and how I made decisions to really kind of put that to rest. And 10 years and counting, things are going well. So
that's amazing. How did you not then play the blame game?
You do play the blame game. It took me, I had to stick with therapy a really long time. And I think one part about therapy, first off, we all think that therapy is, you know, for just people who are screwed up, right? Oh, you must be really
growing up. That was
definitely you're so screwed up, you know. You're just so screwed up. There's no help for you. And I literally sat in my therapist's office the first session and said, you know, I'm not really sure why I'm here, because I knew I was there because I didn't like my childhood, but my childhood I wasn't abused. I wasn't sexually abused. I didn't go without food. You know, I wasn't homeless. I mean, I had a relatively safe childhood. Physically, emotionally, I missed a lot of things. And she said to me, trauma comes in all different forms, and you're emotionally traumatized. You have emotional traumas that you need to deal with. And so I had to hear that from her to be okay. And then you have to go in there and you've got to be honest. You got to be willing to lay it out. You got to be willing to tell on yourself and talk about yourself and not make yourself look good. You're not there to look good. You're there to dig deep and find the stuff that doesn't look so good. And so that's how I got there, you know, to not blame. I mean, I walked in there, and therapy for me was this, you know, up and down, up and down. Like, I'd feel really good, and then it's like, whoo, it all. And when you open things up and you open traumatic situations up, that's when you go back down, you know, and then you've got to rise back up. But I feel like I'm on a good plateau because I've learned how to deal with it myself. You know, she's taught me strategies to help myself. And so that's, and it's easier because I don't even fall back on any of that old stuff, you know, anymore.
Well, and that's what I really love about your book is that, like, I'm all about business. I freaking love business advice. That's just me. But I also really, really focus on emotion, the internal work, how I overcome, how I build my own confidence. Because I really have never met one woman that hasn't had to deal with the internal in order for them to be successful with their business or whatever goal that they have. And so the fact that you've put this book together, you've put these tips together, and there's been a beautiful reflection of how that's impacted your business, and then also how that has impacted yourself and your own growth. Like, that is so freaking beautiful. Where can people find this book? Where can people, you know, pick it up? I know obviously right now they can't go to bookstores, but where can people find it?
Yeah, so if they go to kellyearnhartdrive.com, and I'm a Kelly with an extra E on the end, EY. And, you know, it's available on Amazon, Walmart.com, BAM, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. And you can follow me on social. This is, if you noticed in my book, I did not talk about consistency, because this is where things go south for Kelly as a businesswoman. All of my social media, nothing's consistent. I'm Kelly Earnhardt Miller on Instagram. I'm Earnhardt Kelly on Twitter, and I'm Kelly K. Earnhardt on Facebook. So I need to straighten that out and work on that. But so yeah, follow me on social. I just wanna be helpful.
God, actually, there was one question that I was dying to ask you, and I didn't actually get around to it, so I'm actually just going to ask you now. What made you decide to not postpone your book? Because I know a lot of people, obviously with the show that I do, I get a lot of authors on, and so many people have postponed, but you didn't. And first of all, I just want to say how admirable that is. Like, I freaking love the fact that you still were like, no, this book is coming out. What made you decide to do that? Because I think it's so freaking helpful for people to have that book now, but how did you make that decision?
Yeah, I was really nervous about it. And so I leaned on my publisher and, they obviously set the dates and work on this timing and schedule. And about a month prior, right in the middle of March when all this was happening, I said to them, is this, or we're going to stay on tune? And I feel it feels weird to go out and talk about a book and promote a book. And they had to remind me, Kelly, your book is full of goodness. In a time like this, what you have to say is applicable. And people are going to be reading books, sitting at home, and what your book has to say is pertinent and relevant, And so that was really, and as I looked at that story in my own head and said, that's what this book is about. It's about helping people and about facing challenges and getting through challenges and persevering through that. So that's why we kept the date super scary to me. Particularly, when you can't run out to the store and grab it or see it on a shelf when you're walking by, or whatever. But, the right thing will happen and it'll all see us through. So
yeah, I just want to say personally that it's so admirable that, because you can't leave your house, you can't be doing all these press tours and doing all the publicity and the promotion that I'm sure you had scheduled. And the fact that it could be detrimental to the book, but the fact that it would bring value to people, you still decided, going back to actually what you even said, which is a perfect example, do the right thing. Like, this is actually a beautiful example of you doing the right thing. So I just personally want to say thank you so much for still putting it out, because I completely agree. There are many things that I think are certainly applicable right now as people are staying at home. So guys, just as a way of saying thank you, go check out this woman's website, check out her book. It is so freaking impactful. Before I say goodbye, though, I want to know, Kelly, what is your superpower, girl?
I was wondering if you were going to go there.
Of course.
My superpower. I'm going to say my superpower is making people feel like they matter. It's important to me to matter, and I want to make sure that other people feel like they matter too.
Kelly, thank you so much for joining. Guys, like I said earlier, please do go check out her book, check out her website, check out everything she's doing. Really, really want to freaking support this woman and everything she's bringing into the world to bring empowerment to us. But until next time, people, be the hero of your own life. Peace out.
What up guys, Lisa here. Thanks so much for watching this episode. And if you haven't already subscribed, click that little button right in front of you. Click, click, click away. We release episodes every Wednesday, so be sure to get notified. Till next time, go be the hero of your own life.